Egypt gave us this. It's not the pyramids, it's not souvenirs, it's not even a free plate of kosher, though that would have been really nice. Egypt gave us the gift of time. Moving to Egypt from Canada has completely changed our lives. We came from an environment where work always came first and where hustle was a lifestyle. I mean, like, you live to work, you don't work to live. And here it's the opposite. And I'm not saying it's necessarily Egypt that did this, though let me tell you, the warm climate, being surrounded by beautiful beaches, loads of cafes, and just a general laid-back lifestyle does help. But what has happened here is that we were able to shift our mindset and take advantage of the time difference, as well as the fact that Fridays are weekends here. And for our clients who are mostly back in Canada, their weekends are Saturdays and Sundays. So what that means is that we often have an opportunity to have a 3-day weekend almost all the time. We do use one of those 𝒍𝒐𝒈 for catch up when we have a lot of work, but other times it's for personal projects like this YouTube channel, for example. And that has been a game changer. Before coming to Egypt, I was burnt out completely. I was really stressed out. I wasn't sleeping. And I literally spent most of my days working, tied to the computer, and it never felt enough. No matter what I did, it never felt enough. And part of the reason for that was that the cost of living in Canada was so high, and still is. So whatever income we were earning through our business, which wasn't an insignificant amount, it just was never enough. We were always in debt. We were always chasing something. We were always trying to earn more. And this left us really, really exhausted. Since the cost of living in Egypt is much lower than in Canada, and I've mentioned this in some of my other videos, this has allowed us to spend way less while still earning a foreign income, and therefore not have to work as much. And that was kind of our goal in life. Yes, one of our goals was to move by the sea, but we thought this would happen, around retirement time. But what ended up actually happening is that having a shorter work week and sometimes shorter work days combined with a lower cost of living has allowed us to really have a nice work-life balance where we can dedicate ourselves to the projects that we take on, and we are selective sometimes with the amount of projects and the kind of projects that we take on now, whereas before we kind of took everything that came our way, even if we knew maybe that it's not what we really wanted to do, but we didn't have much of a choice. So that has changed, which obviously impacts the amount of stress that we have. And the other thing, the most important thing is that we are able to dedicate a lot more time to things that make us feel good, to spending time with our kids, to spending time with animals, and we love to help animals when we can, to making great food and just enjoying like a longer lunch break, or spending time with friends, going out, and not feeling guilty about it. And in Canada we did. That was a really big thing. We constantly felt guilty. Like anytime you spent any amount of money that, you felt like you shouldn't, even if it's just for basic normal things, you always felt like you're going deeper into debt or you're doing something that you shouldn't. And that's really not a healthy mindset. Or spending time away from work, that was always an issue where we just felt like overworked and overwhelmed most of the time, which obviously is not a good thing. Tell me in the comments, do you feel like that? I mean, if you're in North America, you might have some similarities here where you're just kind of feeling burnt out and that hustle culture is strong. Let me know, what would you do if you had more time or an extra day in the week? How would that change your life? One of the things we get to do here more is to help animals, which is something that we're passionate about. Like these kittens here, unfortunately, it is a sad ending for both of them, but the kitten on the left, who we named Mouse, stayed with us for a few weeks. We actually managed to nurse her back to pretty good health. She was very weak when my daughter found her, and her sibling unfortunately passed away the same evening that we got them. But thanks to good nutrition, I was cooking the same food that I would for Sandy, just obviously she was not eating chunks of meat or anything, but she got really healthy, was doing well, and thanks to Sandy, our dog actually, who found the kittens. She has very good maternal instincts. If she hears a kitten crying, she always tries to find them. And my daughter brought the kittens home after we realized that we couldn't find the mom, and we searched for quite a while in the entire neighborhood, and after some time when we didn't find the mom, we decided to bring them back to our place. The reason I'm talking about this is because Mouse left a pretty big impression on my heart. I got really attached. I've worked with other cats before, and our dog is a rescue as well, but Mouse was pretty special. It became like an extension of myself. I would turn my hoodie backwards and it would sleep in the front of my hoodie while I worked. But unfortunately, a few weeks after, Mouse got a really bad virus and sadly passed away too. Though we took it to the vet, they were not able to help. So this is one of the things that, I can allow myself the time to do, which I couldn't really in Canada. Though I have to say, Canada doesn't really have a stray problem, so that's a very good thing. But in Egypt, it is an issue, and there's a lot of stray animals, and this took a pretty emotional toll on me because I got really attached, which is why I decided to talk about this in more depth. It's really just to dedicate a portion of this video to strays that are in need, and to highlight our friends who help cats here in Sharm. I'm going to leave a link in the description, and I hope that you find it in your heart to donate, or at the very least watch their video. It would mean a lot to me in memory of Mouse. Now on to brighter things before we all start to cry, or at least I start to cry. I want to talk about Egypt specifically and how it has impacted our life. Aside from the time difference and the extra weekend day, the weather here is absolutely amazing. And yes, it's very hot in the summertime. Like July, August are pretty lethal, and we try not to be here. But the rest of the year is just amazing, and we spend a lot of time outside. And in fact, most cafes and restaurants don't even have air conditioning here. They are mostly outside. So people are pretty much used to just being out, sitting outside all the time, us included. We really love the weather here. We are out on long walks whenever we can, exploring. Like this park, we knew they were building something for some time, but we never actually went by to see it until one day we walked over and we're just so pleasantly surprised. It's called Central Park. I mean, nothing new or creative there, but it's quite a beautiful place, and it overlooks the mountains, and it was the perfect place to watch a sunset. So this is just one of the places that we kind of stumbled upon, and that is outside of the regular kind of tourist area, and it's not a place I think many people know about because it's still fairly new, and I think it's still being developed. But if you're here, I urge you to go and take a nice stroll in the evening, especially if you're here in the winter time. It's really, really beautiful. So this is something that we enjoy about Egypt, and though there might be a bit of a stereotype around Egypt and the Middle East in general, that it's all desert and sand and dry and dead, and that's simply not the case. Yes, there is desert and sand, and it can be very hot. There is a ton of beautiful nature around, and greenery and mountains and a lot of flowers, which I absolutely love here. And in fact, when we were in this particular park that I'm showing you right now, we came across something that I was 100% certain was a hummingbird. And I just went to take a picture of the flowers as I always do, or a sunset as I always do, and saw this little thing, and I was like, oh my god, a hummingbird. And I was so fascinated because I've never seen one in person, and my husband included. We spent a good maybe half an hour trying to film this hummingbird until later on we realized, watching back the footage, that this isn't a hummingbird because it's got like antenna. And so when we looked it up, apparently it's some kind of a moth, I think a hummingbird moth. Still pretty spectacular, I think. I've never seen a moth that looked like that. But, this is one of those kind of unique things that I've never seen before in my life, and I find a lot of that in Egypt. So just the nature, the surrounding, the always clear sky, it's just something that speaks to us. And so in addition to time, Egypt gave us beautiful scenery and places to explore. Egypt makes you slow down. It makes you appreciate things in a different way. It makes you kind of very aware of your surrounding, because it's kind of like a mix of, depending on where you are, like Sharm is very quiet and serene, but then you go to Cairo and it's like crazy and chaotic, and it's a nice balance. And I know in Canada and most places have this nice balance between the nature and the cities and all of that, but for some reason I just feel it more here. And I really do think that's because I've changed, and the fact that I have more time and I'm more mindful and I'm more at peace and way less stressed out, that I'm able to actually notice these things more. The other thing that we do a lot more of here is go to cafes, and I've mentioned this in maybe every video, but cafe culture is a very big thing here. I mean, like, even when you don't feel for coffee, you go for coffee. Everyone just goes for coffee or tea or shisha or juice or something like that. It's pretty standard, and one of the reasons that you kind of feel like you want to go to cafes all the time is because people here go to a cafe to actually interact with other people, and they talk, which is very similar to Europe and not so much in North America. I find that cafes in Canada became about, like, you know, remote working and everyone sitting at their laptop and meeting people, and it was all about work. So that does happen here a bit, but not much actually. You go to a cafe to sit and have a conversation with a friend and you catch up, or as I do with my husband, it removes us from our home setting. Since we work from home, we do need that break to just not be sitting in front of our computer in our home 24/7. So we try to get out for a coffee if we can, not once a day, but sometimes if it's possible, just to break from that and really actually just talk to each other, not about work, not be attached to our devices. And it's really lovely. And again, because you're outside, for me, I'm always interacting with cats. It just fuels your mind. It allows you to really break from the work and the day to be able to continue what you're doing and kind of just recharge yourself. So this is a pretty big thing. So I thank Egypt for all of the amazing cafes that it has. It has brought us time and cafes and beautiful weather. It's brought us many things. I joke about this. Likewise, just as I mentioned before, just going for a walk. I mean, even just going through the streets, there's some places that are so cute, beautiful, and I'm a photographer, so anything I can capture that grabs my attention, it's gonna speak to me, right? So I get a lot of that here. I'm just generally grateful for the slower pace of life, particularly here in Sharm. It's just a little bit more relaxed than what I was used to in Canada, or even Cairo actually. It's really given us the opportunity to absorb life more. That's the best way that I can put it. Like Sandy over here, she's absorbing life to the fullest. Not a care in the world, not a worry, just looking for pets. Literally nothing to think about. That's my aspiration. It's to be like Sandy. Okay, that's not completely true. My aspiration really is even more freedom of time and more passive income and the ability to do the things we love even more than what we do now. And that is really our goal, and that is what we are after. And it's always top of mind. And for us, it's like very simple things, just cooking a nice meal, being able to travel, spend time with our kids, do activities that we like. It's very, very simple stuff, and it is really what we aspire to. And being in Egypt has given us the ability to do that and maybe speed up the process, I guess. Kind of like how Sandy speeds up when she smells us cooking steak. Although in this case, we almost burnt the house down. But all was good, all was safe. The meal turned out pretty good. We just lost track of what we were doing for a little bit. I'm going to give you a prime example of something that I was able to achieve here in Egypt that for some reason I wasn't able to in Canada. And I'm not knocking Canada. It's not really Canada's fault. It's just the lifestyle that we had there, and we couldn't really get out of that lifestyle. So I've always enjoyed drawing and painting and writing, and I've done it as a hobby most of my life. And I did take some time to do that in Canada, especially with the kids. But it wasn't as frequent as I would have liked. And actually, one of the things that I started doing about 8 years ago was writing a children's book. And it literally took me 8 years to finish it, and I only managed to finish it recently. And actually, the day that I'm recording this, the book was finally published on Amazon. Now, the only reason that it got published, it was because I was able to finish it and take the time to finish it, because there were some elements missing and some of the illustrations and all that. So again, not necessarily Canada's fault. I don't want anyone coming to me in the comments as if they have in the past. I'm not blaming Canada, but the life we had there and the things we had to do didn't allow for a lot of time to do sort of passion projects and things that we really wanted to do for ourselves, and we just have more time for that here. It's not that we're just lounging in cafes all the time, it's that we are working on things we really enjoy working on, and then spending the free time that we have on things that we really enjoy doing. Just the way that my son is enjoying his breakfast, of course. You might notice that in most of my videos I show food. I don't necessarily show recipes or how I cook things, though I have a lot of videos if you are interested in that. So let me know if you want a food video. Happy to do it, but I still might not share recipes, mainly because I don't really follow recipes. That being said, I am thinking about maybe doing a recipe book, funny enough. Anyhow. This sandwich, though, I'm going to tell you about. You have to try it. I don't know if you have smoked cheese where you are, but if you can get your hands on some smoked cheese. This is an Italian smoked cheese, handmade, very good. And you put some lebna on the other side, or cream cheese. Top that off with za'atar, sauteed mushrooms, and fried eggs is the best breakfast sandwich you could possibly ever make. So that's a quick recipe for you. That's as much of a recipe as I can probably give right now. But I guess I'll have to work on that if I'm going to write an actual cookbook. I think I need to actually know measurements of things. I don't really know how I do things. I do follow measurements for baking. That's about the only thing, but they're not my recipes. They're just recipes that I'm looking up just like everyone else. But it's a passion of mine and actually my daughter. So it is something that we enjoy doing quite a bit in our pastime. Cooking and baking and eating. And if we're not cooking, baking, and eating, we're probably out doing the same, like eating, I mean. Or we're sitting by the sea enjoying coffee, you guessed it, or a juice, or a shisha. I mean, you get the pattern here, right? Like it's maybe kind of like a bunch of the same, but it's the good kind of the same, and I don't think I can ever get tired of that. Like, I'm never gonna get tired of sitting by the sea, enjoying a cup of coffee or a freshly made juice, and just like breathing in the sea breeze air. It's not something I'll ever get tired of. I also don't get tired of no traffic, because in Sharm there's literally no traffic ever, and not gonna get tired of not having noise because it's pretty quiet here too. So yeah, I think we'll stick around for a while. But I want to know from you, where are you from? Where are you watching this video from? And does any of this connect to you? Are you going like, oh yeah, I hate traffic, or that sounds amazing? I really want to know. Have you been to Sharm? Have you been to Egypt? What do you think? Maybe we think completely different thoughts, so that's okay. I'm just curious where you're watching from. Say hello, and obviously, I mean, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. I really appreciate it. Back to food for a second. I know, but I have to talk about this. If you're in Egypt, you have to try, I think it's the national dish. They say koshari is a national dish, but I don't know. I believe this is a national dish. You have to try mahshi, and particularly made with cabbage. I mean, it's made with many things, but cabbage is our favorite. It is so delicious, and it's best if you can get it from someone's home. They do serve it in restaurants, but homemade mahshi is just divine, and it's really particularly good when it's served with a roasted duck. Just letting you know, if you're in Egypt, make sure you eat this. And again, if you want to see a video of how I make these things, let me know. Back to our regularly scheduled program. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, just to let you know kind of what it's all about. I live in Sharm. I moved here 3 years ago with my family. I am Serbian, but lived in Canada most of my life. And my videos really are kind of capturing life here in Sharm as a foreigner and an online business owner and a creative person who is really striving for freedom of time more than anything else in life. I love to travel and see new places and go to restaurants and cafes, as you can tell. So you'll see a lot of that in my video. It's really just showing you life here, which I don't think many people show that. I know that there's some videos about tourism here, but that's not really what I'm trying to do. I want to show you day-to-day life, because there are actually quite a lot of foreigners who live here who see the same beauty that I do, but I think a lot of people don't know a lot about Sharm, actually. I even have family that hesitate to come to visit because I think they just have a misconception of how it is here, and I just really want to share what it's like to have the freedom of time and to live in a country that is maybe not your own, And so if that speaks to you, I do hope that you subscribe, drop me a comment. I love interacting with my viewers. Follow along, and I will share other things, like if I'm in a different part of Egypt or I'm traveling, maybe things in day-to-day routines and things like that. But for now, I want to show you as much of Sharm as I can and talk about Egypt and my experience here, which so far has been very positive. I mean, Egypt's not perfect, no place is, but our experience so far has been fantastic, really. And again, cost of living much lower, cats everywhere. Like, I don't need much more than that. All jokes aside, if you are someone who is thinking of starting life elsewhere, not necessarily Egypt, I do encourage you to follow along, because I think that decision, though a big one, is quite possible, especially if you run a remote business or have any type of ability or talent of doing anything online, and if you're able to earn a foreign income. Living in a place like Egypt, or any place similar where the cost of living is lower, will really allow you the kind of life that probably many people dream of. I'm not going to say everyone's different, right? But we do often feel like we're on a permanent vacation. So if that's your vibe, subscribe. But I do also share my videos for those who are interested in knowing about Sharm itself, where to eat and drink, even people who are living here who might not know of all the places. So that's why I'm always dropping the location, so you can look it up if you're visiting. And I'm also going to be dropping food. I think that's my new strategy. I'm going to talk about a bunch of stuff, and then I'm just going to throw food at you. What do you think about that? We actually bought the seafood at the place where we just showed you right now, and they sell really fresh, amazing seafood. But you can't fish in Sharm. All the seafood that we purchase here is usually from Egypt, and it's fantastic. This is sea bream, and it is drenched in this sauce that my husband makes that is just to die for. We also did some calamari with squid ink and butter, and really a perfect meal. We do cook a lot here, actually, more than what it might seem like. It might seem like we're always in restaurants, but we're actually not. Predominantly because the produce is very, very fresh and inexpensive, and so is the meat and the dairy and the seafood. But when we're not in the mood for cooking, sushi is our go-to. The Merlin and Caviar has the best sushi, hands down, in Sharm. That's what I'm going to end with. I'm going to end with sushi. And just as much as I'm grateful to Egypt for the gift of time, I'm actually also very grateful that you spent your time watching this video. If you made it to the end, I thank you for that. And I hope that you subscribe, like, share, and comment. I'll see you again here next time.